Are you concerned with political corruption? Do you despise the way how politicians like Barack Obama do the bidding of Wall Street and then get immediately rewarded with $400,000 speaking deals as soon as he leaves office? Well, if so, Debbie Wasserman Schultz has a message for you. Mind your own business.
Hillary Clinton, as you know, spoke today. She, as we all are aware, was slammed during the campaign for taking millions of dollars from Wall Street for paid speeches, right? People saw it as hypocritical. People saw it as unfair for someone who said they were going to stand up to the banks. Now, President Obama, though, is being criticized by some of your fellow Democrats for his decision to take $400,000 for a single speech to Wall Street. Here is what some Democrats are saying.
It's not a good idea. And, I'm sorry that President Obama made that choice. I just think it is distasteful.
Well, I was troubled by that. One of the things I talk about in the book is the influence of money. I describe it as a snake that slithers through Washington. And that it shows up in so many different ways here in Washington.
Are they right?
I mean, of all people to question whether or not they question their commitment to getting money out of politics, to really making sure that we restored integrity to the political finance process.
But he's talking specifically about banks, right?
Look, it is none of anyone's business what someone who is a member of the private sector decides to accept in terms of compensation. With all due respect to anyone who chooses to comment publicly on what Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, or anyone earns as a member of the private sector, it's just like MYOB. It's none of your business.
So you think even though, look, the banks are bigger than they were, none of that matters to you at this point?
Look, you know what? I trust.
No bank CEOs went to jail, anything. I mean, those are some of the things one would presume Senator Sanders and Warren are upset about.
No. I agree. I think that there was a lot more that needed to happen to not only crack down on the big banks, but for there to be consequences for their actions. But as far as the compensation that a private citizen takes for a speech that they give, that's not my concern nor any of our business. I look more at the public record of someone like Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, and their public record is pristine. They both fought back against the big banks and their practices, and I have every confidence in the service that they both provided.
Out of all the politicians in the country, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she is one of the few that continuously is just shameless. So, I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. Let's go back to her quote. So she says, "It is none of anyone's business what someone from the private sector chooses to accept in terms of compensation." And then she goes on to say, quote, "Like MIOB, it's none of your business." Debbie, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Okay, yes, it is the case that Obama is technically a private citizen. However, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was Barack Obama who was just the president of the United States. So it's a little bit odd that as soon as he gets out of office, after being soft on Wall Street, after not jailing the crooks that crashed the economy in 2008, that they are rewarding him with this multi-$100,000 speaking deal. Doesn't it look a little bit like corruption? Doesn't it look like they're rewarding him for doing their bidding while he was in office? Don't you think that that's important? Because it demonstrates a broader issue in the country about corruption, about how politicians serve their donors and then they get rewarded immediately when they leave office. I mean, don't you think that this is something that you should also be concerned about because it reflects poorly on everyone in the Democratic Party? I mean, at a time when a majority of Americans think the Democratic Party is out of touch because of things like this, Debbie is saying, you know what, mind your own business. And it's not that big of a deal, guys. I want to do this too. I hope that Wall Street gives me $400,000 too. So mind your own business. No, Debbie, it actually is our business, and you should want it to be our business. You should be grateful that there's anyone even concerned with the affairs of the Democratic Party after what you did and after they have behaved over the course of the last 8 years. You guys betrayed us. You sold us a lemon, and then when we don't come back to support you in the next election, you blame us for your loss. That's not the way this works. If you actually want to represent Democratic Party constituents and progressives and independent leftists, then you actually need to represent us. But what Obama did was he showed who the party really is looking out for. Is Obama going on any speaking tour to help out the poor? Is he fighting for a Medicare for all system after he gave us a shitty Republican light healthcare plan? Is he going to third world countries and trying to cure hunger and famine? No, he's going straight to Wall Street, who he served very well during the course of his campaign. And people are going to say, Mike, he put in place Dodd-Frank. He signed that into law. That cracked down on Wall Street. Dodd-Frank gave the government a little bit more power to try to rein in Wall Street, but the main things that led to the economic crash in 2008 have not been corrected. The problem is still there. And Obama did that. He did milquetoast reform so he can brag about it and say, look, I cracked down on Wall Street. Meanwhile, how many executives from big banks did he jail? How many CEOs are sitting and rotting in a cell right now? 0. And that's what should have happened. He didn't break up too big to fail banks. And, you know, it's funny because Debbie says here that you shouldn't look at what they're doing now. You need to look to their record. And the record of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, it's pristine. Their record is pristine, Debbie. Here's what I would call a pristine record. If Obama got in office and he signed a reinstatement of Glass-Steagall, that would be great. If he actually broke up the big banks, if he jailed the crooks that crashed the economy, that would be a pristine record. You want to know what would be a pristine record for Hillary Clinton? Let's talk about her record. She took $700,000, more than $700,000 from Wall Street, and she refused to release the transcripts. And then when we actually found out what she was saying, she was basically talking about how she has a public and a private position, so she'll tell voters one thing and do another thing. You call that a pristine record, Debbie? Well, to you, I mean, to Debbie, in her world, she's living in, bizarro world, because to Debbie, the primary was never rigged. She was forced to step down for whatever reason. Debbie, nobody wants to hear from you. After what you did, which we'll never forget, by the way, you should be in a cave right now. You should be so embarrassed with yourself. Your career should be over. But you're still out here denouncing people's legitimate concerns about political corruption when you want that party to get in office. Well, look, if the party wants to get elected again and ever get back into power, you need to stop doing things like this. So you should come out with Elizabeth Warren, with Bernie Sanders, and condemn what Barack Obama is doing.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.